cloud. Ooh. All right. All right, everybody. Settle down. Settle down. Okay. So, what's interesting is that if you look at the landmass of the south of Israel is actually bigger than everything north of it. And that was one of the reasons why. Anybody know who was like the biggest proponent of the South? Ben Gurion, David Ben Gurion. David Ben Gurion, the first prime minister, and I think arguably the founding father of Israel, believed so strongly in the South. He said, he's quoted, one of his famous quotes, "It is in the Negev that the creativity and pioneer vigor of Israel shall be realized." Now, why? Because there's this, if you want to go back biblically, the idea of the desert will flower. And that was the test. The test was, can the Jewish people come not just to a place that is fit to grow? And it wasn't that simple. You talk to people, we'll talk about the middle of Israel, but they moved for the first 2 years that they were there, the pioneers, they moved rocks. All they did was move rocks to create land to grow plants. But at least there was rain. At least it was fit to grow. The question is, can you make a desert bloom? Can you make a desert blossom? And we'll talk about how they have. He wanted people to move south. Did it happen? No, it didn't happen. And even till today, it's a problem. People don't want to move south. And the JNF is making all kinds of projects in the South to inspire people to move to the South. The thought is, if you build nice infrastructure, maybe, and it's much cheaper, maybe people will move to the South. But you see how and think about this, all this green over here, that's the last class. That's beyond the green line. So really, Israel, almost 90% of the people living in Israel live in this little thin corridor right over here. That's where everybody lives. So they got to get people to move up here, and they got to get people to move down here, or else it's just a disaster. Everybody's living right over here. Does that make sense? So that's kind of one of the major missions of the JNF. And it was a major mission of David Ben Gurion. Did he just say it, or did he put his money where his mouth is?
He didn't say he lived there. He's very there.
Here is David Ben Gurion, you see that guy? And when he retired, he decided, I'm not going to wear jackets or ties anymore. I'm not going to live in Jerusalem. I'm not going to live and Jerusalem, he couldn't have really lived in most of Jerusalem, but we know of Jerusalem. They didn't have East Jerusalem, but he could have lived in West Jerusalem, fine. He could have lived in Tel Aviv. That's where, he'd be cosmopolitan and be recognized, and everybody say, oh, it's Ben Gurion. What did he do? He moved to a tiny kibbutz in the south of Israel called Sde Boker. And he's famous for doing, there's a statue of him doing his famous headstand. Now, this is at the beach, but he would do that at Sde Boker. Like, as if to say, I know I was the founding father of Israel, but look, I'm also just a normal old guy who can do a headstand.
That's not normal.
And in 1950, he retired there. At first, the kibbutz thought, like, he's got to be joking. We don't want him here. He's going to ruin our kibbutz. Like, everybody's going to want to come and see him. And he's like, no, if I come, I'm going to be a normal. You're not going to have to treat me special. I want to work at the kibbutz like a normal Israeli. I want to be back to being a person. And that's what he did. And sure enough, he put his money where his mouth is and finished his life at Sde Boker in the Negev desert. Now, if you go to Sde Boker, that's what I'm talking about. Literally, there was nothing. Like, it's the moon there. But now they've learned how to grow things. There are trees, there are palm trees, there's agriculture. And there's a whole institute, the Arava Institute, which is specifically founded to learn how to have agriculture in desert climates all around the world. So they do believe very deeply in helping all of humanity. And so people from desert climates all over the world, including places like California and Arizona, come to this institute to learn new ways of farming, new innovations for how to grow things in the desert. So that's something to be very proud of. Now, the Negev Desert. We go south a little bit. Actually, let's go back to here. Right now, we started at Beersheba. Sde Boker is about over here. Now we're going down south to Mitzpeh Ramon. Mitzpeh Ramon is one of my favorite parts of the Negev. There are these geological formations that are only found in Israel. There's 8 of them, and they're only found in Israel. The most famous of them is called Rimon. And anybody know what I'm talking about? What's the geological formation? It's a crater or a machtesh. Now, many craters are formed when something from space hits them. This is not that. This crater, which is giant, and this is kind of the view from like one top of the crater. You could see like the other side over here. It's over a mile across. And the crater was formed all around. You'll have a cliff, a sheer cliff that's about 1,000 feet high. What happened was there was limestone, a layer of limestone covered by a layer of sandstone. And that's pretty common. Over millions of years, when it did rain, the water would all come through. It was kind of a runoff area. The water would come through, pour through, and get sucked up into the ground in this limestone area. The limestone melted, kind of got dissolved. Correct. And at some point, the limestone holding up all this sandstone was dissolved enough for the whole thing just to go clash. Like a whole, yeah. And that's how you have these. It's incredibly beautiful. The picture doesn't do it justice. It looks kind of like a Grand Canyon type landscape. And one of the beautiful things is that the city on the edge, which is called Mitzpeh Ramon, has become a beautiful tourist city. Now, why would you want to go to Mitzpeh Ramon? Well, there's a beautiful hotel spa there where it's like every hotel room has a hot tub, or like a little mini pool. Like you have a mini pool. There are wild mountain goats walking around like in the city, like wildlife. And probably most beautifully are the stars. The light pollution is non-existent in the Negev desert. And so if you stay there at nighttime, it is the most stunning sky I have ever seen. I've been camping, I've been places, there's nothing I've ever seen like the sky over Mitzpeh Ramon. Just a personal story. There's also a Hesder yeshiva. Do you know what Hesder is? Hesder is the religious Zionist Jews. They study in yeshiva, but they also do the army. So Hesder is when you split your time between yeshiva and army service. And there's a Hesder yeshiva in Mitzpeh Ramon. And when the boys misbehaved at Yeshivat HaKotel, they would get sent to what Rabbeinu called galus, exile. And he sent them to that yeshiva. There was not one person who spoke English in the yeshiva at Mitzpeh Ramon. So I always wanted to get sent there, but I didn't do anything bad enough. And so Alas, I never got to go. Going back to the map, as you go south from Mitzpeh Ramon, there's like literally nothing. There's one kibbutz where once I bought a cheesecake. It turns out it wasn't kosher.
Oh,
A lot of the kibbutzim, they're like dafka, like we don't want any rabbis blessing our cheesecake.
was that your bottom?
Yes, that's right over here. The fata. Exactly. Because that's the only thing. No, they've started to build like little places, but there's really it's so barren. But then you get down to Eilat, and I want to talk about Eilat. Eilat is one of my favorite places in all of Israel. Eilat,
Meaning now, I should have called.
hmm?
My cousins love a lot.
Yes. Eilat is a great place to visit, though it is 4-hour drive away from Jerusalem. So that doesn't seem like a lot, but in Israel, that's a lot. Um, so in Eilat, once you make that 4-hour drive,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, it's almost like Las Vegas. In fact, in many ways, it's like Las Vegas. You're driving through the desert, there's nothing. And then all of a sudden, there's all these big hotels, giant hotels. It is the vacation capital of Israel. And many Europeans also come to Eilat. One thing that I found spectacular about Eilat that I found very fascinating was that many Arabs also come and vacation in Eilat. And so it's one of the only places I've ever seen where you have a ton of Arabs, Palestinians or Jordanians or Arab Israelis, and they're walking on the boardwalk, the Tayelet, which goes along there's a Tayelet along the water, on the beach, and also they have this amazing kind of area where there's where the boats are, the harbor. And there's all these Jews and Arabs, and they're all kind of like interacting in a peaceful way. It's weird. It's kind of like it's vacation place. We're not gonna bring our fighting to vacation. We're on vacation. Or maybe like maybe the radicalized ones don't take vacation.
Right.
Because
Busy
they-
killing people.
Yeah. So these are the ones that want to have a good time. So Eilat is completely surrounded by these red mountains. And on it, the reason it's surrounded by mountains is it's a valley, and it's the beginning of a very famous valley. Anybody know the
Rift Valley.
the Great African Rift Valley begins. So like somehow, I don't know the geology, but somehow over time, two plates made two mountains and a great valley that goes deep into Africa. And it begins in the Jordan Valley and where Eilat is. And because of that, it creates a dip in the earth. And because of that dip in the earth, ocean filled the dip, and that's what we call the Red Sea. And the Red Sea comes all the way to Eilat. Eilat is on the tip of the Red Sea, and so it's a very special place.
People are waiting to get in.
People are waiting to get in.
That's what Jeff said.
Well, I don't know if I can let them in. Can I let them in? I'll let you in if I can. Let's see.
It's more of a sure thing to show.
Waiting room. Admit. Admit. Hello. Oh, hello. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome.
Okay.
All right. So, where does our map go? There it is. So if you see down here, you can visit if we were allowed, and I think that time is coming soon, hopefully. If we were allowed to go to Saudi Arabia, we could visit 4 countries within 40 minutes, under an hour. Egypt is over here, Taba. There's a big casino in Taba. Then Israel, then Jordan, and right past over here, like right over here, is Saudi Arabia. I've always dreamed of creating that tour. When Saudi Arabia joins the Abraham Accords, I'm not going to move there and start those tours, but it's a dream that I have. 4 countries in 1 hour. You have to have a l'chaim in each one.
That would be illegal though.
Yeah, it may be. No, I think if you're not Muslim, you can have a l'chaim.
In Saudi Arabia?
You think so? Because they're not Muslim, so you can have a l'chaim. Well, we'll see. Another aspect that's very beautiful about Eilat is the coral reefs. Red Sea has some of the most spectacular coral reefs in the world. And that's even more so now because as oceans temperature rises around the world, there's been a great die-off of coral. Coral is extremely sensitive to temperature changes. And when the waters get warmer, the coral bleaches, it dies. Not so in the Red Sea. Evolution, the Red Sea is warm. It's just a warm sea. There's desert sun shining on it all the time. And since it's thin, there's not so much flow in and out of the main ocean. And so the corals in the Red Sea have evolved to be able to tolerate heat. And they're incredible corals, and they're still very much intact. The bulk, to be fair, the bulk of the incredible coral is by the Egyptian side. Sharm el Sheikh and Taba. There's another one that's very famous, and people go down there. I mean, Israelis go down there still. Like it's kind of like people would say, "How could you do that? How could you go to Sinai?" And they'll say to you, "Well, how could you go to Baltimore?" It's the same kind of thing. It's scary if you've heard of it. But if you've been there and you've done it, like people think it's normal. So the coral, actually, they've been trying to take these corals and replant them around the world to try to save coral reefs by using these stronger corals. But in Eilat, right off the beach, it's very common to see whale sharks, to see dolphins and big manta rays. It's just a very beautiful aquaculture. And so scuba diving is a major hobby in Eilat, also water sports. And you might think, well, okay, so this is a new city, but it's not really a new city. King Solomon had copper mines down by Eilat. And if you think about it, it makes sense, meaning thousands of years ago, it was also a port that connected to the Indian Ocean. So if you're importing spices, you're going to, and you want to get close, that's the closest you're going to get. So the Nabateans had trade routes through that area. The Nabateans were they're the ones who probably sold and bought Yosef. Mm-hmm. Those were the Nabateans, the spice traders, the Ishmaelites, they called them. And King Shlomo had mines, copper mines, and they've done archaeological digs. You can go see them, and they find the remains of these Bronze Age mines. Wow. Yeah, it's and they even know the process. I read a big article about it in Time magazine, and there was like a very interesting process that they used to separate the copper out of the rock, and highly poisonous. They also found argaman and sheish, the dyes that are talked about in the Torah. They found scraps of clothing, which means like if you were just poor you would not have those colors in your garments. It means that there was wealth and like people of importance down in that area. So there's a lot of history. Then that's true for all of Israel. Everywhere you go, there's going to be a ton of history. One other thing I want to talk about for Eilat, two other things. One is there's a new airport there, which has made it much more accessible. The old airport used to be right in the middle of the city. That has been closed. They're building high rises there. And the new airport is a large airstrip that can take major planes. It's about 20 minutes north of the city. And it actually was in the news recently because there was terrible weather in Tel Aviv and a flight coming in from Europe was diverted and landed in Eilat. They were able, that's the only, because they didn't have any other airstrips in Israel that could accommodate large planes. It used to be the planes coming into Eilat were propeller planes, and now they can accommodate regular size planes. And one more thing about Eilat, things you might do there, jeeping, the coral reefs, there's snorkeling. The coral reefs are right on the edge of the water. So you can just grab a snorkel and go. They have like a walkway and you jump in and you're right along this coral wall with amazing fish and of all colors and types. There's also a underwater observatory where they built an underwater tunnel into the corals so that you can like look out your window and see what's going on in the coral. It's like it's the aquarium, the Israel's aquarium, and it's down there in the Dead Sea. And then if you like hiking, there's a famous hike. There's a mountain called Har Shlomo, Mount Shlomo. Why? Because King Solomon had his mines there. And Mount Shlomo is a spectacular hike that everyone who likes hiking should do, ought to do. One of the top hikes in Israel.
What's the elevation?
I don't know. I'll have to chat GPT that. It's not that. I mean, it's Israel.
Yeah.
It's not the Alps, but it's tall
Okay.
and it's beautiful. It's very striking red. All the mountains are this red, beautiful rock. Okay, we're gonna move back north past Mitzpeh Ramon to Dimona. Dimona. There's not much to say about Dimona. That was a place where a lot of immigrants were settled. When Sephardic people were coming as refugees to Israel in the 1950s, many of them were set up in these small cities. They built like these one-room houses for families. And that was like the story of Israel. They absorbed them. It wasn't comfortable or great, but they were able to absorb like millions of refugee Jews. Right? They talk a lot about, they like to talk about how Palestinians were displaced in the 1948 war. Well, like over 1 million Sephardi Jews were forced out of all the countries. We're talking about Iraq, Iran, Jordan, Syria, Morocco, Egypt, right? They were just persecuted, and Israel made sure to bring them. And then some of the most famous that came later were the evacuation of the Ethiopian Jews. Mm-hmm. And so Dimona has always been a absorption center for Israel for new immigrants. And Dimona also has Israel's only nuclear power plant for peaceful use only. But everyone knows, wink, wink, they don't mess with us. No, don't tell anybody. Don't advertise it. But it's the worst kept secret. But I think Israel, plausible deniability, but like we're not gonna go extinct easy. Yeah. We're not going down again easy.
It was identified to us by a Sabra as an observatory.
Yes,
yes.
So that's Dimona.
So it's really a nuclear missile base?
No, it's not a missile base, but it's
reactor.
On a nuclear reactor. You can also spin and centrifuges and make enriched uranium. So that's where they make the enriched uranium also for the nuclear weapons. I don't think they've done it in a while. They have enough. How many do you need? Right? But like they say Israel has maybe 40 or 50.
One for each enemy.
So but yes, but it's also a nuclear power plant. But that's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
Long time.
all the time.
Okay. Going north, I want to talk about the Dead Sea. Okay, just in case like it's not interesting enough, with Eilat and coral reefs and Beersheba and research, and we'll get back to Beersheba in a second. The Dead Sea is the lowest place on Earth. It also has a very, very high level of chlorine and bromine in the air, which basically calms you down. Not high enough to make your eyes burn, but high enough to mellow you out.
Well, if you got some shaving cuts or something,
It hurts.
If you go in the Dead Sea,
Yeah.
that's very unforgiving.
yes.
Yes, yes. Why was the Dead Sea created? How did the Dead Sea form? Well, up here in the Golan, in the north, by Lebanon, by Syria, and by the Golan Heights, there is a ton of rain. And all that rain comes down the mountain and enters the Sea of Galilee, the Kinneret. There's another major lake up here in Lebanon, but it flows down to the Kinneret and out from the Kinneret to the Jordan River. And the Jordan River flows all the way through this kind of deserty area, not that terrible, not as bad as down here, but it's kind of deserty, but it flows and enters the Dead Sea. And the Dead Sea is the end of the line. Why is it the end of the line? Because first of all, it's the lowest place on Earth. So what happens after here? You start going back up, and water doesn't flow up, right? So the water kind of gets stuck over here and forms this lake. But it's in the middle of the desert in a place where there is no rain. So what happens to that water? Evaporates. And all the minerals that it had picked up along the way, absorbed by running, all get left behind here in the Dead Sea. And it gets more and more and more concentrated over millions of years, concentrating these minerals. And that's what you end up having, a sea that is so salty, full of mineral salts, that you can float on top of it. And who here has not floated in the Dead Sea? It's worth doing when you do go to Israel, because you literally you are 3/4 out of the water.
And the water is like oily. It's got
Oh,
a weird
yeah.
sensation.
Is it like stagnant or dangerous?
No, nothing can live in it.
it.
Nothing.
Oh, so not even bacteria.
Not even, though I believe that some scientists found some kind of crazy bacteria that can live in the Dead Sea, but they're not going to be dangerous or anything. I don't even know if
You're
that's
not
true
going
or
to
not.
come out of it with a Dead Sea rash.
No, there's no, well, you might, if you have a cut,
You'll see your bummy.
if it gets in your tuchus,
You'll see your bummy.
if there's any opening,
Mucus.
if it gets in your eyes, God forbid, right? You don't splash in the Dead Sea. You just relax, because yeah, it is very, very sharp. But the minerals are extremely healing. If you go into that water and then you get out and you kind of wash off, it really renews your skin. It helps with psoriasis. People actually come from Europe just to go into the
You
Dead Sea.
see Russians smearing mud on themselves.
Yes. Now, what is?
At the Dead Sea?
Yes, the mud, the mineral mud. They have these.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, so-
Love it.
So if you're there, a few things that you would do at the Dead Sea. One, you go to a spa. There are hotels with spas. There's the Dead Sea Spa, which is the cheapest option. and they have the sulfur baths. There's all this sulfur water.
Right.
So you sit in there, then you take a little tram and you go down to the Dead Sea. Now, this is kind of sad. The Dead Sea is dying. Why is the Dead Sea dying? Because we're killing it. Why are we killing it? Because it's very lucrative. This picture is not accurate. It's now two seas. This whole southern side has been turned into evaporation pools. The minerals that are in the Dead Sea are incredibly valuable. Lithium,
That's radioactive, isn't it?
There's
not radioactive, but it's important for for computer use. Yeah, for tech.
Do you mind turning off the light when you go back to the map? Because we can't really see it, what you're doing on the map.
Oh, you can't turning off the light, or what do you mean? This?
The overhead light?
Yeah. Oh, is this okay if I push if I touch it
Yeah,
like
that's,
this?
there's like a blur on the map because of the lighting, so it's hard to see it.
Oh. Let me move it a little bit. Was that a little bit better? I'll get a better map for next class for sure.
When you turned off the light before, it happens to be, it was really good. I don't know if that's too
Okay.
annoying to keep doing that.
No, that's okay. We can turn off the light.
Oh, we can do that.
I just want to see myself. I'm just kidding. I can't see myself anyway. So,
What do it have the?
no, this is perfect. This is perfect. Okay, do you see better?
No, actually, I'm not sure why.
Oh, it is.
Before,
It is.
before it was, but now we don't see anything. Now it's white, actually. Now it's completely white.
It's completely white.
Yeah, the screen is showing up as completely white. Sorry. Okay, it's okay, whatever. It's fine.
Oh, wait a second. You mean you're not seeing the map?
Does anyone else want to say? I personally, it looks white to us, but maybe other people are seeing it on Zoom. I don't know.
So one thing you can do is a screen share. You can share your screen so they're seeing it on
Oh.
your screen on their screen.
I'll share my screen on your screen.
Because they're only seeing
We
the
all
back-
screen for ice cream. Do you see it now?
Now it says Rabbi Sesh.
Yeah. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
No worries. So what I was saying is the Dead Sea has been turned into two Dead Seas right over here, and this is all evaporation. So because of them constantly, and that was actually, there's some positive things about that. First of all, money. Money's never bad. It's Israel who gets the money. It's not a private corporation, but it's split. They did it with Jordan. And Jordan, because Jordan's on the other side. The Dead Sea is completely split in the middle by the border. And that's a part, like, there's been a couple things that have created a good peace between Jordan and Israel. And the Dead Sea Works has been a big part of that. Jordan benefits tremendously from the technology that we shared with them and the mining of the Dead Sea. So the downside is, and they've talked for years about how to fix this. They've talked about maybe making a pipe from the Mediterranean to the Dead Sea and refilling it. So other people said, let's make a pipe from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea. And then
Sorry,
they
would
say,
it be
"But that-"
possible to point on the map on the screen, like with your mouse?
Oh, yeah. So
Thank you so much.
yes, do you see my mouse moving around?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so people have talked about making a pipe over here to refill the Dead Sea, or to make a pipe coming from the Red Sea down to the Dead Sea. And so far, nobody has agreed to any of those things. And the Dead Sea gets shallower and shallower. So you could see where they built the spa was where the Dead Sea used to be. And now you have to take a tram about a half a mile to get to the beach. But that's what they do. And they'll build new things, and then it sees drying up. Now, probably in our lifetimes, there will still be a Dead Sea. So just something to realize. What else about the Dead Sea is cool? What else is around there?
Masada.
Masada. Masada is one of the most important cultural heritage sites in Israel. Why is that the case? Masada is a mountain fortress. There was a mountain that was pretty much flat at the top, And for many generations, different people had been using it as a place to hide out, to escape. And finally, during the Roman times, after the Bar Kokhba rebellion, the Romans, there was I'm not going to get into all the history, but the Romans were like, had enough. They're like, we're going to brutalize the Jews until they have no energy to fight anymore. We're going to make them so miserable that they will never pick up a sword again against us. And so they did that. And there was just terrible, terrible bloodshed all over Israel. They kicked all the Jews out of Jerusalem. And so the Jews that were left had to move up north. So that was around the time that the Talmud Yerushalmi was written. The Jerusalem Talmud was not written in Jerusalem. There were no Jews in Jerusalem at the time. It was written actually in the north of Israel, in a couple areas in the north of Israel. And they named it the Talmud Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, in memory or in honor of Jerusalem, which they could no longer go to. Jerusalem, the Romans plowed and renamed it.
When was that?
That was, we're talking 135 ACE. 135, 150 or so after the Common Era. Around that time, Judaism had splintered into generally three groups. The Pharisees, that's us. We came out of the Pharisee tradition. That's all Jews. Reform Jews are also from the Pharisee tradition. There were the Sadducees or the Sadducees, which were kind of, when the temple was destroyed, they were like, we gotta hold on to the temple. They were mostly led by Kohanim. The Kohanim did not want to. Right, the Pharisees were very smart. The rabbis were like, "Hey, we don't have a Beis Hamikdash anymore. We have to make Torah and Shabbos central. Learning is the new korbanos. Learning Torah, davening, and so that they were very wisely pivoted. But there were a lot of Jews who were like, "You can't do that. You can't change." And they basically said, we're going to do what we always did when the Beis Hamikdash was here, and we're going to start offering our own, korbanos in different places. And they ended up dying out. They disappeared, the Sadducees, the Sadducees. And then there was a group called the Essenes, and they weren't one group. There were a bunch of different wacky groups. They were really wacky. They were ascetic. They had strange beliefs. They were what you'd call messianic. They were like, the end days are near. And you could understand there was a lot of death, a lot of fighting, a lot of split. They didn't like the Sadducees. They didn't like the Pharisees. Sadducees and the Pharisees were the two main groups. They fought like crazy. They told the Romans on each other. The Sadducees generally worked with the Romans, but the Pharisees did too. It was like when they talk about sinas chinam as the destruction for the temple, this is exactly what they're talking about. That there were Jews who basically worked against each other, groups that hated each other. The Essenes, or the other ascetic groups, were like, we're out of here. We hate all of you. You're all evil. You're all political. We're not political. We are just holy. Mashiach is coming any day now, and we are going to the desert. And some of them, one group of them, went up to Mitzada. They were the last independent Jews in Israel in the time of the Romans. So they were like the last remnant. Like, you think about it, this is the end of everything of the Torah, of the Bible, right? The Bible is coming to an end because the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed and all of Jewish sovereignty is now crushed, except for this little mountain where they say, we're still independent and Mashiach's coming any day, and leave us alone. And the Romans were like, no, you have to submit. They were like done putting up with us. Some people ruined it for everyone, and so they wanted to kill us all. So they came to Mitzada and they surrounded it. It was not an easy fortress to take. The Essenes were prepared. They had years of water. They had years of food. And the Roman troops, remember, they're in the middle of the desert. There's no food. There's no water. The Romans are in a bad place, and the Essenes figured we can outlast them. 1 year went by, 2 years went by, and the Romans, they were so serious about this that they diverted a lot of energy from other wars to capture this mountain. It became symbolic. And in the meantime, the Essenes were not so nice. They would dump rocks down or make fun of them. They'd come and and so finally the Romans were like, we've had enough of this. And they had a lot of slave labor. Why did they have a lot of slave labor? Because there were Jewish slaves. So they took Jewish slaves and made them build a ramp up to the mountain. Meaning there was no way to access this mountain besides this path where you could easily kill them coming up. Like one person, that was what's today called the snake path. You can go up or down the snake path or take a tram up. On the other side, the Romans built a ramp all the way up to the top of the mountain. When they finally got there, they busted through the defenses, and then they said, once we're through, we've broken the wall, we're going to come in tomorrow morning and kill everybody, rape the women, kill the men, take the children as slaves, whatever it was going to be. And they came in the next morning and everyone had killed themselves. There's records about how it happened. Parents killed their children, then husbands killed wives, then people would kill they all decided this is not going to happen to us. And the Romans came in and found the scene. I think there was 1 or 2 people that were alive when they came in. Now, why is that important? Why is that an important part of Jewish history? Why is that so central? Why does everybody have to go to this Mitzvah? Well, first of all, archaeologically, it's really interesting. It had been earlier, before the Essenes took it over, it had been a palace, with a pool included in the middle of the desert for Herod. Remember Herod? Herod's like part of the history of Israel everywhere. He was earlier when things were still okay with the Romans. He was the king that the Romans installed over the Jews. So it's cool just to see that, to see Masada archaeologically. But what it represents was the last fighting spirit of the Jewish people. For 2,000 years after that, the Jewish people did not fight. We were so brutalized by what the Romans did that we just would bribe, we would beg, we would hide, but we didn't fight. And up until that point, and that kind of, that feeling of like, we'd rather die than be taken as slaves by you, is kind of like that fighting spirit. Like there was a time when Jews were warriors, and that doesn't seem strange to us because we lived post 1948. But if you lived Holocaust and before, the idea of Jews, or pre-state, even pre-Palmach, because the Palmach was early. But if you lived pre-Palmach, the idea of Jews defending themselves was absurd. And that was a great embarrassment to Israel. Because after the Holocaust, Israel was founded on the principle never again. Like, we're not going to ever let that happen to us again. We are back to being fighting Jews, and as represented by the spirit of Mitzvah. Like, we would rather die than let you have your will with us. We will go back to the times where Jews were fighting. So it kind of represents the spirit of Israel, not what's called not the galut. They had this idea of the galut mindset, the exile mindset of just, we got to hide, we got to be quiet, we can bribe people, and they'll be nice to us. Hitler proved that is just not the case. So Mitzvah is really important, but you only have to go there once. If you go there once, I wouldn't go again. Like, what do you need to see it twice?
Sorry to interrupt. I have to head back to my house. Can you just let me in the waiting room? I want to hear that.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
We're almost done. I apologize that we're going to go a little bit later than we're going to go a little bit later than because we started a little later. So the other two other amazing things, three other amazing things to see. Two of them are not that amazing. One is Lot's wife. There's a big pillar, geological formation that looks like a woman, a giant pillar of salt, and they call it Lot's wife. You know, this is where Sodom was. I mean, it fits into the whole story of the Torah. The Torah. So I'm not going to pick sides here. I believe in the Torah. The idea was that it was a beautiful place. Remember, Lot chose to go down there because it was a great place for flocks. It was very lush. And then Hashem destroys Sodom by sending sulfur and like this brimstone. And that's would explain to a certain extent why it's so barren and so salty. So there's a big pillar called Lot's wife. There's also this very cool area called the Flower Caves, where the salt is like powder. It's like
confectioner sugars.
it looks like confectioner sugar, and you're walking through these caves where everything is like kind of it's almost like a slot canyon. If you've ever been to a slot canyon, where you're in this very thin area and you look up and you see the sky, but all around you are walls, and the floors are just this powder, and the walls are powder. So it's a very cool thing to see over there. And then the most interesting thing, I think, by the Dead Sea is a famous oasis, a famous spring called Ein Gedi. Ein Gedi is a place where lions used to live, all the African animals that now have gone only south used to be found in Ein Gedi. Hyenas, things like that. Ein Gedi is in the middle of absolute desert. You have this one crevice, this one crack that is full of water, and it's full of animals, and it's beautiful. It's like Eden in the middle of a wasteland. So it's worth going there. There are beautiful trails there. There are waterfalls you can swim in, and
Wow.
it just has a cool history. All of this has cool history. Now, I wanted to mention, in between Eilat and Beersheba, I said there's not much of anything, but there is some people. There are some people who lives in this area. An ancient tribe of people called Bedouin, and they have become over thousands of years adept at living in the desert. They are desert dwellers, ancient desert dwellers, the real Ishmaelites, and they live in tents. And you'll see, if you're driving through there, you'll see Bedouin. I'm not going to talk too much about the Bedouin. They're very interesting. They kind of are like raiders. They're known to, there's a lot of violence. It's a tough society.
Tribal.
It's very tribal. It's like Aladdin. They'll cut off your ears if they don't like your face. That movie didn't age well. Yeah, they have many wives. A Bedouin man has many wives, many camels, and some goats. It's an interesting life. And Israel, for a long time, has been trying to get them to settle in cities because they move around. They move, they graze. They're like literally biblical, like Abraham, And guess where Abraham lived? We're going to go back to that. Beersheba. So let me go back to my thing. And Abraham. You see, what is this? Who's this? Abraham. And who's he sending away? Hagar and Yishmael. And he sent them into the desert. Where was that desert that he sent them away into? It was the desert right near Beersheba. Why did Abraham live in Beersheba? So strange, right? It is deserty. Beersheba, what's a bear? A well. What's the story with that well? Where did that well? I mean, obviously there was a well there. Abraham made an oath by this well that he established. Who did he make an oath with? Avimelech. Yep. Who was the king of Gerar, which is Gaza. You see, this whole area was Avimelech. Avram's like, I'm going to stay over here. We're not going to fight. We're going to be cool. And that's what it was. Why would Avram live in Beersheba? He could have lived somewhere nicer. He did. When he came, Avram comes all the way through Israel. Why does he keep on going south and settle in Beersheba? And the answer is because that would allow him to interact with anybody. You had to stop there. If you were in a big city, how's he going to have an effect on people? If he's in Beersheba, it's like literally the oasis in the desert. So everybody has to go there, and that's where Avram can recruit. And that's what he wanted to do, recruit for Hashem. So Beersheba is very, very ancient in our people. I want to show you some pictures of Beersheba today. This is Beersheba when it was first founded. Look at this. This is early Beersheba. How do you like that? Now, here's Beersheba. It's still the same land, you could tell, but now it has a railroad and some high rises. It has the famous Soroka Medical Center, and a JNF built. And it also, they have the Tel Beersheba. These are the ancient excavations of the original town of Beersheba. Let's see, am I missing anything? And does anybody have any questions about anything I've spoken about?
When you drive to Eilat, are there like gas stations along the way?
A few. No, there's one area where like there's nothing for a long way.
So
you better fill up. Yes, absolutely. And it has a sign that says no gas stations for forever. Yes, absolutely. One more thing. Avdat, one of the largest and most important Air Force bases in Israel is in this area near Sde Boker, between Beersheba and Sde Boker. So going back to the map, just south of Beersheba. And that's where like F-35s were. It was also hit by missiles by Iran. It was like in that remember the first Iran war? That's where missiles, they targeted that military base, that Air Force base. And right next to it is Israel's Air Force Museum, which is incredible. It has some really important and historic planes. The plane from the rescue of Entebbe is there. The plane that Israel spies stole from I believe it was Iraq, and they gave us, it was like the newest Russian MiG, and Iraq had just gotten it, and we used one of our spies to get an Iraqi pilot to fly it, but it was so secret that none of our pilots knew. So they were going to intercept it, and just at the last moment, it was being chased by Iraqi pilots. It was being intercepted by Israeli pilots, and then right before they took it out, they called it off. He landed, and we were able to give it to the Americans, and the Americans found vulnerabilities. So it like really messed the Russians up for a whole generation of fighter planes. It wasn't the MiG-29. I think it's the MiG 18 or something like that. It's the one that has a hole in the front. The only Israeli plane ever made that they never really used, they ended up using their own version of the Mirage, the French Mirage. In the beginning, France was Israel's main supplier of military weaponry until they cut Israel off. And then America became our supplier. But until that point, France supplied us, and we had the Mirage, which we called the Kfir. But we were very upset about that whole thing. Like, if we get cut off from planes, we're in big trouble. So we invented our own plane. They only made 2 of them, and it's there, but it was a cool plane. And yeah, that's trying to think, is there anything else I'm missing? Anybody have any questions? Just it's such an ancient place. The Tanakh it does take place. So many of the stories in the Torah take place in Beersheba or in that area in the south. And obviously the wandering of the Jews in the Midbar is that area. You want to see what they walk through. You want to know what they were in for 40 years? You have to go to the Negev and you'll understand. Thank you, everyone. We will meet again next week. And next week, we will talk about the central cities of Israel in the central region of Israel.
Does it include Galilee or no?
No, Galilee is the north. We will hit the Galilee on the 3rd week. And then the last week, we will talk about beyond the Green Line. So we're talking about the Golan, we're talking about Gaza, and we're talking about the Yehuda and Shomron, which is Yehuda is south of Jerusalem, Shomron is north of Jerusalem, otherwise known as the West Bank. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Wasn't there anything about that plane that we got that plane?
Right.